to our channel, our new channel. My name is Sarah, and Sarah and I help people empower their kitchen. And if you haven't seen it already, please check out our other channel, Empower Your Soul with Sarah and Derek. Welcome to our kitchen. So today we're going to be doing homemade biscuits without Bisquick. I know a lot of you probably don't think that's possible. I know I didn't for the longest time, but then I looked up a recipe because I didn't have Bisquick one day, and they turned out great. They're actually really good. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. So, the first thing you want to do before you even start is the recipe calls for 6 tablespoons of butter. I just do the full stick, which I think 8 tablespoons, so it's 2 extra tablespoons. You have to put that in the freezer and let it harden for the rest of the recipe because you'll see why. Also, you have to preheat your oven for 425 degrees, and mine's already going. It's already preheating. And you have to take a cookie sheet or a pan of any sort, and it says to line it with parchment paper, but if you don't have parchment paper, that's fine. There's also the canola cooking spray, which Derek has turned me off of because he says it's full of bad things. So now I have a big tub of Crisco that I use on everything. So I just took a little Crisco and put it on the bottom so it doesn't stick. So the first thing it says, and because I just learned how to do this for the most part, I am using a recipe. So the first thing it says is okay. So we already preheat the oven, and we already took care of our pan. Now we have to combine flour. Here's another trick, okay? I have regular flour, and then I have self-rising flour. And this we get from Price Shop. So the self-rising flour, if you use self-rising flour, you don't have to use the baking soda or baking powder, whatever the recipe calls for, because it already has it in it. So you can skip that step. So you can use regular flour, but if you do, with this recipe, you have to add baking powder or baking soda. I'll go over it when I get to it. So for this one it says, okay, so combine flour, baking powder, which we're not using, sugar and salt in a large bowl and mix well. Alright, so it calls for 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to do 2 cups of self-rising flour instead. So here's my measuring cup. And don't be afraid to make a mess because I always do when I'm baking stuff. And of course, to measure, you fill it and then you go. And that's going to give you, it's almost there. You always have to flatten it out. Ooh, that might be a little too much. Oh my god, it's made a mess. That's alright. Like I said. So that's a little too much, but that's alright. So if you do a little too much in the first one, then all you gotta do is a little less in the second one. Like I said, don't be afraid to make a mess, because I always do when it comes to baking. So I won't do quite a cup in the second one. A little less than a cup. Okay. Not to mention that if you have a wet cup or anything in the cup in general, you always do a little more because it's not always going to get in there. Let me clean this up real quick because I feel crazy if I don't have a clean kitchen to work with. Good enough. Alright, so we have our flour. We're not using baking powder. So we need sugar, salt. What's that? It's a very easy recipe. So it says 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. And I have like the cutest measuring spoons. So this is 1 tablespoon. You got little chickens on them. We have chickens outside. Okay, so we're gonna set that aside. This is our sugar thing. Okay, make sure it's level. Put that in. And then it says 1 teaspoon of salt. And again, when it comes to teaspoons, I don't really measure, I just kind of throw it in my hand. Usually if you cup it, and it's about full like that, that's a teaspoon. Alright, and that's it. So now we want to mix this up, and as soon as I find my whisk, it says mix it, but I always use a whisk. Especially when it comes to dry ingredients, it's the best way to get everything really, really mixed up. Okay, that's all good. Now it says set aside, remove your butter from the refrigerator. Actually, I put it in the freezer. And either cut into the flour using a pastry cutter or use a box grater to shred butter into small pieces. So what I use is actually, I don't have either of those, so I use a cheese shredder. As soon as I find it. I found it. Okay, so it's your cheese shredder, and I got the butter. I don't know if I can open it. And yes, of course, I already washed my hands before I started. Okay, so you just take the cheese shredder, and you put it right over it, and you just kind of go. This takes a few minutes. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my life. So I've been cooking since I was about 9 years old, and I learned from my mom, and I love cooking. That's when I figured out that it was one of my many passions, of course. So I love cooking, I love baking, and I mean this is both kind of cooking and baking. But I've also decided that on top of a cooking channel, I actually want to do a baking channel also. I don't really want to mix the two, just so I can get, you know, if you're looking for a certain thing, it'll be easier if you go to like a baking channel or a cooking channel to find whatever you're looking for and different recipes. And again, if you have different recipes you want me to show you how to make or is your favorite and you'd love to learn how to make, just let me know and I would love to show you. This is great for your arms, great exercise. I can feel the burn already. Just make sure you don't get your little fingers tucked in there. But again, I've always loved cooking, baking, etc. That's what I grew up doing. I learned most of the cooking from my mom and most of the baking from my grandma. She was an amazing soul. Both of them were. And I love cooking everything, and I cook all different genres, just all home cooked meals. We rarely eat out. I mean, I make some amazing pizzas, and that I didn't really learn from my mom. That I learned from working at a gas station for 11 years. So we made pizzas, and you know, the company just wanted us to make the usual pizzas. And I was just like, I can do better than this. So then we started making all different kinds of pizzas. That was awesome. So, like, the main picture on our thing is a pizza. And I want to say it's a taco pizza slash, like, half is taco and the other half is, I think, chicken Alfredo with broccoli, which is really good. Like, it's really good. And that way you get two different kinds. I always like varieties of everything for the most part, especially pizza. Cheese gets boring after a while. Alright, so there you go. You have your butter. It looks like cheese. And then you add milk. And it says to use a wooden spoon or spatula, which I will at first, but then I like to use my hands. Another thing, if you're a short girl, I'm going to show you how to do this much easier if your countertop is too high for you. I go right on the floor. I sit right on the floor and I get my hands into it because it's the best way to do it, because otherwise my shoulders get hurt. I've also dislocated both my shoulders, so it's a little harder for me if it's higher. Hang on, I gotta rinse my hands. Even though I'm gonna get dirty again, but I want to at least rinse them off so that I can touch the milk without getting grease all over it. Alright. You know, I never thought about it, but even if when I spill a little bit of flour before on the countertop, you're going to need that flour anyways because you're going to roll out the dough and then get your biscuits. So, milk time. The milk is... Alright, so it says 3/4 cup whole milk. You can also use buttermilk as well. Buttermilk works very good too. But since we only have milk, okay, so we're going to do 3/4. Okay, so there's 3/4 of milk. Now I'm just going to use a regular spoon. And Derek would be helping me right now, but he's off at the store, so it's okay. I'm sure he'll say hi when he comes home. Alright, so start mixing it. And this is such an easy recipe. I mean, yes, Bisquick is easier, but when it compares to taste, and you can literally taste that it's homemade, which is, it's just so much better. So once it starts sticking together like that, it's getting hard to, I may have to move the camera around because I'm definitely going on the ground. Okay. Now, if your dough is too sticky, you're going to want to, I mean, again, if you're tall, you're fine. You can do all this on the countertop, but I'm little, so I'm just going to point it down. I don't know how far I can go. I'll stand in front of it, or sit in front of it. That way you can see everything. But if you're little, there you go. Okay. So I always bring my flour with me. Okay, and I won't know until I actually get in there if it needs any extra flour. It does feel a little moist. But then you just start kneading it. Kneading our dough. It's very moist. If it starts sticking to your fingers, then that's not okay. So, usually I have somebody help me with this because my hands are very yucky, but that's okay. You just put a little extra flour on top. And again, we're using self-rising flour. Make sure it's all in there. And then you make sure you fold it in half about 5 to 6 times to make sure that it's all coated, it's all nice and dry. And again, you don't want it too flaky, because if it's too flaky, then it won't stick together when it's cooking. And the more you knead it, because of the butter inside, the softer and the moister it's going to get, because the butter will actually melt with your fingers touching it. It's still kind of a little moist. Yeah, it's a little too moist for my taste. Just getting all the flour all over it. I usually knead it a little more than 5 to 6 times just to make sure all the butter is melted in it, because otherwise when you're trying to work with it, it's going to be harder to work with when you're cutting out your circles. Make sure you get your hands all in there. Feel if it's a little sticky, if it's a little more sticky. Just do a little bit more. And if you have extra in the bowl, that's fine, because you're going to use that when you dump it out anyways to make your circles. And the oven is preheated and ready to go. And again, don't be afraid to make a mess, because I always do. Making biscuits is a workout, but it's good for you and it tastes delicious and it's all homemade and all fresh ingredients. And alright, so I think that's pretty good. It feels not so sticky, nice and firm, not too flaky. Okay, so that's what we have. Alright, so now that I'm gonna mess of myself, we're gonna come up here. And we're done with the ingredients and everything. Sorry, I don't want you to see my feet anymore. Hi, everybody. Alright, so let me go down a little more. Okay, so there's our spot. I put some flour on it. Now we're basically just going to take our dough, and I'm going to put the rest of the flour that we have in the bowl on the countertop. Make sure we get everything out of the bowl. Okay, there's a little piece of dough in there. Okay, now it says don't use a rolling pin. So just literally, and I would flip it and make sure everything is covered. And just use your palm to push it down. And you want to get it the thickness that you want to get it at. But you still want them pretty thick. So that looks pretty good. That thickness. About 1/2 inch or so. Okay, and then you take your little guy. I mean it's a cookie cutter, but I always take a cookie cutter circle. You can do them any size you want. I mean, obviously the smaller you're going to get more out of, but I use just a basic cookie cutter. And then I just start at the edges. And that's what you get. And I always pat on each side so it's covered in flour so it bakes better. We have our pan already set up for cooking. Here's one. Two. 3. And basically keep repeating the same step over and over again. And if it's a little lacking of flour on the other side, just take a little off the counter and put it on there and pat it. And through all these recipes, we would love to hear if you guys actually had a chance to make them yourself and how they turned out. I mean, I would love to see some pictures, but I'm not sure we can actually do pictures. We have 6 so far. If you guys have never made cookies or doughs of any kind, once you can't get any more, you just kind of put the dough back together. smush it. Last piece there. Put a little more flour if you have to, just so it doesn't stick to the surface. And then you, again, just flatten it out with your palms. You have the consistency you want, or the thickness that you want, not consistency. Like this is starting to lose a little bit of flour. So it's starting to stick a little bit. And I hope you guys are doing this along with me. That'd be cool. And again, all of the recipe details will be in the description. So if you ever had any questions, just look at the description and it'll tell you everything you need to know. All the ingredients, times to cook it, etc. Wow, that's making an awful lot. And usually mine do. I don't know if it's because I do them so flat. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 on this one. And there's only going to be a couple more on this one. But I don't want to waste any. That'd be silly. It took me a long time to make it, right? It actually doesn't. It doesn't take that long to make. It's just a lot more work compared to the Bisquick. But the taste is, it just, you can't compare it to it. And I haven't actually put the Crisco on this new pan, so we're just going to set them to the side. I'm probably going to make about 2 more. So it'll be 15, 16. So it'll be 20 altogether, which is actually a pretty good amount. And actually, something funny that I do, when I get down to the last kind of one where you can't make any more, I just take a little more flour in there. I take the cookie cutter, and I just take what's left, put it in the cookie cutter, and then flatten it out. It may be a little thicker than most, but you'll still have the same shape. That way they're all cohesive. Just kind of, there you go. Roll in some more flour. And that's it. So, I will show you the results in cooking time. Hold on. So, like I said before, it's 425 degrees for 12 minutes. That's it. So I'll be back in 12 minutes to show you the results. See you all soon. Here comes Tinny. Can we get you with flour and dough and stuff? It's my baby. It's my baby. You tired?
No.
You be up?
No.
You love me?
Yeah.
Say bye.
Bye.
Now hit that button.
And the like button.
Yes, hit the like button. We're not done yet. Hi everybody.
Hi.
Welcome back. The biscuits are done. They're amazing. Perfectly brown on the bottom.
You've really empowered our kitchen.
Oh, have I?
Ooh, delicious.
Alright, anyways.
Don't let them not eat them.
I'm
Come
so
on.
hungry. Okay, I'm excited to eat. So,
Me too.
after I took them out, I basically just basted a little butter on top. That's why it's nice and golden and the bottom is brown.
And this is non-Bisquick, you said?
This is non-Bisquick. This is just flour,
Oh.
salt, and butter, and that's about it. Super simple. Oh, and milk. Those are the 4 ingredients. Those are 4 ingredient biscuits right there.
That's not a lot.
No.
Wow.
And they turned out really fluffy and delicious. Look at that.
Delicious.
Look at that. It's beautiful.
Wish we could share with you guys.
They can make their own. We don't need to share with them. That's the whole point of this.
Right.
Yes.
Great.
So, hopefully you liked our recipe. And if you did and you like all of our content, make sure you give us a big thumbs up. Smash that like button. Subscribe.
Oops, I got ahead of myself. And then
ring that bell and set it to
all.
And that way you will get all of our new notifications for all of our new content.
Yeah.
Yay!
Very exciting.
Thank you for watching, everybody. We love you. Thanks for all the love and support. And we will see you all soon.
If not soon enough.
I have no idea what we're making tomorrow.
Ooh,
It'll be a surprise.
delicious.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.